My name is Nora, and I'm 29 years old. 7 years ago, my mother called me 3 days before Christmas and said 4 words that shattered everything. I thought I knew about family. There's no room, Nora. I was standing in my tiny 4th-floor walk-up in Chicago, the radiator hissing a warning I didn't yet understand. I had already bought my flight. I had the gifts wrapped. I had been counting down the weeks to go home. It's just, Jessica's new in-laws are coming, my mother Linda said. Her voice was smooth, devoid of any guilt. And with her pregnancy, she needs the guest suite. We just think it would be too crowded. Too much energy, you know. I'm your daughter, I whispered. But the line went dead. My father sent a text minutes later. Sorry, kiddo. Mom's stressed. We'll talk in February. February. To them, I wasn't a daughter. I was a calendar entry that could be moved. I was the reliable one, the one who was expected to understand, to shrink and to disappear so my sister, the golden child, could shine. I had $42 in my checking account and a suitcase full of gifts for people who didn't want me. I went to the airport and bought a ticket to the only place I could afford, Vermont. I arrived in a small town called Oak Haven in the middle of a blizzard. My thin Chicago coat was no match for the mountain air. I found a Victorian house with a sign, the Willow Inn. When the door opened, I met Eleanor and Richard. Eleanor didn't ask for a credit card. She looked at my blue-tinged lips and my trembling hands and said, "You look like you've been hollowed out by the wind. Come in, Nora. The world will still be broken in the morning, but you'll be stronger to face it." That Christmas, I sat at a table I hadn't earned. It was a table of strays, people the world had forgotten. We ate rosemary roasted goose and shared stories. Marcus, a forest ranger with kind eyes, sat next to me. He was the first person to look at my sketches and call me an artist instead of a hobbyist. While I was laughing with these strangers, my phone vibrated. A group text from my mother. A photo of a sprawling table set for 12 in Chicago. The caption read, "The family is finally all together. Our hearts are full." I wasn't in the photo. I wasn't in the caption. To them, the family was all together because the people who mattered were there. I was a footnote they had finally decided to delete. I stayed. I moved into a small stone cottage on the property and became the inn's manager and resident illustrator. For the first time, I didn't wake up calculating the emotional temperature of the house. I was planted in soil that actually wanted me to grow. In May, Richard and Eleanor did something that changed my life forever. They asked to legally adopt me. At 29 years old, I signed papers that made me their daughter. I wasn't an extra person anymore. I was an heir. Peace is never absolute. 6 months after I left, my past arrived in a silver SUV. My mother and Jessica stormed into the lobby. "You're coming back to Chicago," Linda snapped. "We'll tell everyone you had a nervous breakdown. Jessica needs you to manage the nursery. You're the only one who knows how to keep the peace." "I'm done being the peacekeeper for a war I didn't start," I told her. When Eleanor stepped forward and revealed the adoption, my mother's face turned a mottled purple. "She has a mother," she screamed. "You might have given birth to her," Eleanor growled, "but you didn't raise her. You just expected her to grow in your shadow. The shadow is gone, Linda, now leave." As they drove away, my mother shouted that I was nothing without their name. But as I watched them go, I realized I had never felt more like something. A letter eventually came from my father. He admitted he used me as a shield to keep my mother quiet. He sent money, a ghost offering. I didn't want his money. I took the truth instead. I wasn't too sensitive. I was just the only one who could be hurt without making a scene. Today, I am a successful illustrator and the future owner of the Willow Inn. Jessica eventually came back. Not to demand, but to apologize. She left our parents' house to raise her daughter away from their poison. She realized that I didn't leave her. I showed her the way out. I stood on a stage recently, giving a keynote speech on resilience. I looked out and saw Eleanor, Richard, and Marcus in the front row. "Success isn't a check or a title," I told the crowd. "Success is the moment you stop asking for a seat at the table and realize you own the house." I spent 29 years trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it. And then I spent 7 years learning what love actually looks like. The no vacancy sign at my parents' house wasn't my failure. It was my invitation to find a home that was actually mine. If you're watching this and you've been the scapegoat of your family, if you've been told you're too much or too sensitive, or always causing drama just because you dared to ask to be treated fairly, I want you to know something. It's not you. It never was. You deserve to be chosen. Not as a backup, not as a last resort, not as the acceptable sacrifice when someone else's comfort is at stake. Chosen first. Chosen fully. Chosen without conditions. Family isn't blood. Family isn't obligation. Family isn't people who share your DNA but treat you like a burden. Family is the people who show up. The people who see you crying alone and invite you to their table. The people who open their hearts and their homes and make you officially, permanently, undeniably theirs. I spent 29 years trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it. And then I spent 7 years learning what love actually looks like. If this story touched you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It helps more people find these stories when they need them most. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with your own family? Share your experience in the comments. I read every single one. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love knowing how far this story reaches. And if you want more stories like this, check the description. I've linked some of my favorites there.